Hello and welcome to SonicLAB. Today we're looking at these Adam Audio D3V desktop monitors. And you'll be pleased to see the rotating cake stand has made a return appearance because I can show you around these little bad boys. So these are active speakers. They're quite small, but they have an extended range, partly due to this passive radiator, which is on both sides of the speaker and is a sort of, instead of a base port, these are sealed units. They're made of a solid plastic, very robust, and they provide quite a lot more sound than perhaps you would expect. So let's take a look around. The speakers themselves, we've got a 3.5-inch woofer and a 1.5-inch DART, which is accelerated ribbon technology. Those of you perhaps familiar with Adam speakers, maybe larger ones, will know that they're sort of famous for their ribbon tweeters, which provides a sort of quite a smooth and silky sound. They're very flat, generally, Adams are considered. Round the back, we have our connections. We have two sets of connections. We have balanced analogue inputs. These run at 48 kilohertz. The analogue inputs have 24-bit converters, and we've also got a USB-C input, which we can take a direct feed from the laptop. It just shows up like a sort of sound card, effectively, or a set of speakers. At the top here, we've got a set of room corrections for where the position may be, whether it's on the desk, whether it's small or large desk, whether the room is treated or untreated, how close it is to the corner. We can mount them. They come with these little inserts. We've got an insert here, which slide underneath, so you can have it on the desk and tilt it up, or you can have them flat. They've also got an 1/8-inch connector for mounting on. They're connected together by this DIN cable. This is probably about 1.6, 1.8 metres. They will be bringing out some longer ones because obviously some people might want to use these in a 5.1 system. We might get onto that a little bit later on. So you plug it in here and you plug the other one in this way. You don't have to have this set up to be this on the left or this on the right, even though it does say left loudspeaker. You can swap the channels if you want to set them up differently. 24 volt, 2.5 amp input. This is the power input. Power supply is included. We've got a volume control, which also doubles as a little, I don't know if you can hear that click, but it's got a little switch to it. So we have a power light here. One click will mute the speaker, 2 clicks will switch between the analog and the digital inputs, and 3 clicks will swap left and right channels in case you need it. A long press will just put the speakers into mute mode and standby mode and switch them off. There is no actual power switch. There's a standby system which you can actually switch on or off if you need to. In terms of amplifiers, both amplifiers live in this unit. This is their digital amplifiers. PWM amplifiers, rather amusingly. There's 2 80-watt to drive the subs and 2 40 watts to drive the ribbons. There's no real difference in weight between the units, even though the amps live in this one. Because they're digital, they're actually very lightweight. Get yourself a free sample instrument. You can choose from the Moog Muse, Udo Super 8 or the Kodamo Mask 1 sample sets. Just fill in our 2025 survey. It's a great way to help us keep giving you what you want. Your feedback is much appreciated. Okay, so I've set them up in front of me on this little desk, which is kind of an approximation of how one might try them. They are, probably about 2 or 3 feet apart. As I said, the cable that goes between them is a little on the short side, particularly if you wanted to kind of put them further apart or have them part of a multi-speaker system, but it is possible. And the way you would do that is you'd have analog inputs, you'd need a multi-speaker control system, and you'd plug the cables in left and right and then assign them in your 5.1 or your Atmos, whatever system that you might have. But you do need these longer cables, which will need to be available, which they are not currently at the moment. I've got a nice little close-up of the speaker here. You can see that the button is green. I've got 2 possibilities. I can go green, double click makes it go blue, which means it's got the USB. So I've got this live session here, which is a track of mine. I'm using this because obviously it's not copyright, and anything else will probably cause a problem. So you're probably wondering also, why have I got keyboards here? Because quite often with DSP-based speakers, there can be latency, so I want to test that. So just coming back to the screen, let's just see what we've got set up. I've got headphone outputs, and I've got the latency down to 64 samples. So I could just press play, and you'll have to sort of take my word for how it sounds. So this is a track I released on an EP a while back. It's, you know, it is what it is. It's not got a lot of beats in it, but what I did is I added some beats here, so we can have a listen. So if I just fast forward this a little bit, so where the bass comes in, and you can have a look and see what the speaker's doing here. And if I put, you can see that there's a sort of quite a lot of air moving on this guy. This is up full. So in a minute, the bass drops to an octave below, which really will test these speakers. It's quite a smooth sound. Stereo imaging is nice. No kind of lumpy frequencies. Surprising amount of low end for the size of these things. It sort of almost feels like there's a sub here, even though there isn't, but I guess that's the point. So there should be a, there we go, that's the low. That's a very low sound. So if I don't, play a bit. So this is sounding as I would hope it would do. Nice stereo imaging. This is not driving, I mean the speakers are up full and the headphones are up full here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to crank the master just to see if we can get this to start. Yeah, there we go. So this is now full volume. So you should be able to see. Yeah, this is the protection kicking in when it goes red. Okay, so I'm not going to torture them too much more, but it's, oh, stop that. It's not an unpleasant effect, but there is a sort of a ceiling. I mean, these are small speakers. You're not going to get it to really pound out, but they're quite vibey. I could imagine for sort of making beats and sort of getting a vibe going, it'd be kind of fun. So one other thing to test, I've got my phone here. Literally, that's the USB connection around the back to this. I'm just going to unplug it and plug it in again. So let's just show you how easy this is. I mean, this is something that I did find quite handy in the fact that it's quite snappy. It gets going pretty quick. You know, it sort of recognises the device without any great effort. So I'm just going to, again, I'm going to put, just put this in here so you can see it. I plug that in. I'm going to use one of my Friday Fun synth jams just because that means it's, you know, again, copyright's not an issue. So double click, that now goes blue. That means that it is the USB audio that's being fed. So I can just press play on this. So this is one of my Friday jams with the, looks like the Polybrute and the Delta Sep. Let's see, I can crank this up a bit. Again. Okay, now this is a really impromptu Friday Fun. Sorry, that's all a bit meta, isn't it? Me on camera, and yeah, it's coming out the speakers. So again, but the fact that that's so quick is really interesting. I should say that the sample rate supported in here, if I plug this into the Mac now, I'm just going to go straight in, and then we go over to here. And we'll just go to, let's actually go to, I just need to go over to my audio interface. We can see the options that we've got. If we go down to the Adam Audio, we've got 32 kilohertz, 44 and 48. Those are the limitations. And again, this is 16-bit, so the audio would only come out at 16-bit. You only get the 24-bit from the analog inputs, so that's something worth mentioning. As far as the sound, I have listened to some other tunes that I'm not going to play on here because I'll get busted for copyright. Groove Armada Sun Toucher is one of those big ones. And again, you know, that's got some really deep, heavy bass, and it's quite surprising how it handles it. Again, and it's got a really nice sort of solid, the vocal in that is right down the middle, super dry. Sounds pretty good. I mean, it's hard for me to kind of say whether you'd like these speakers or not. I guess if Adam is the sound that you've heard before on larger speakers, it's going to be a familiar sound. I have to confess, I am not an Adam speakers expert. But for the price, I've seen them for as low as 277 UK, 289. That's not too bad. But if we compare them maybe to the iLoud Micro, which is probably the nearest. The iLoud Micros are a little bit smaller. If we have a look at those, they're about 245. They're a little bit smaller than these. And I suppose if that means that you want to chuck them in your bag, they might be a little bit smaller. These are slightly bigger, but still quite portable in relative terms. Like I say, about 289, between 277 and 289 for a pair. Comes with the power supply, comes with the cable, comes with the USB-C connection, which has a little adapter to go to B-type as well as C, so you can plug it into pretty much anything. But I was actually quite impressed with these. I think maybe, you know, I was thinking that there could be room for them at home in my little setup that I've got at home on my desk. But I'd actually be a bit worried about the neighbours because the bass extension is that. I think there's a kid's bedroom the other side of my wall, so it's probably not the sort of thing I could really use all that often at full tilt. But like I said, 277 to 289 UK for a pair of quite impressive small desktop speakers that are going to give you, I think you could probably mix on them and it would translate reasonably well. Obviously, you know, you'd have to get to know them a bit better first. It feels like not a bad deal. I mean, there are other options out there, and I suppose if you wanted like a surround system or anything else, you'd have to add in that extra price of, you know, factor in the extra price. I guess the thing about these is they're just, you know, plug and play and forget. And I like the fact that you can just knit between analog and digital inputs quite easily. So that was a review of the Adam Audio D3V loudspeakers available now. Thanks very much for watching.